Over the past couple of years, I've made many videos explaining to you guys why I'm buying XRP, why I'm so excited about it, and why I think on a risk to reward basis, it's a pretty good investment right now. Again, I'm talking about the stance for me. I'm not your financial advisor. Throughout my journey, however, I've seen tons of criticism. And again, not a little bit, a ton of criticism. Anyway, I've noticed that the major criticism comes from two things. It's a centralized banker coin, and Ripple sells a lot of XRP on us, which is bad, they say. On another side, I often get people who ask for my XRP price prediction and ask, hey, could XRP make me a millionaire if I hold this and that much? And so it is pretty divided, you know? Here's, however, a simple diagram that somebody wrote to explain to us why XRP is a quote-unquote scam. A simple diagram showing how Ripple, the private company, has made billions of dollars in the last 7 to 8 years. And what they basically explain is Ripple sells XRP that they own. Ripple pay another company to become a partner. Ripple pays the new partner to tell everyone it's using Ripple. And because of that, the XRP price goes up. And because of that, they can sell their XRP at a higher price. And you might be looking at this and thinking, oh, isn't that kind of what Ripple does? Is they indeed sell XRP and they do pay companies? Now, let's just take a little step back and realize for a second why we are often so excited about XRP. A very big part of it stems from two parts. One, their core utility, the principles of what they set out to achieve. And I've explained that in my 40-minute video yesterday in depth. All the different reasons as to why the price could go high and Ripple's core values and mission. But a very important part of that comes from the fact that the SEC is looking into them right now. Again, I'm talking about a short-term gain. And the fact that the SEC, as of 2 and a little bit years in, can't really prove that much against Ripple in any sort of wrongdoing sense. Again, as you guys hopefully realize by now, the SEC has been investigating them for years. Ripple has had many different agreements across many different continents for regulatory purposes. But even with FinCEN in the US, they had an agreement where XRP is a currency. But I digress from that. The most important thing to understand is if Ripple was doing some sort of fraudulent stuff, the SEC would be first to know. And regarding this specific sheet, this is what the SEC tried to prove as well. But fun fact, they couldn't. And again, I'm not saying it's the exact same thing because this sheet is just what somebody made up. But you have to understand one of the criticisms that I see quite often as well, not a core point, but I see it often, is that the XRP doesn't move a lot. But then, if you do a couple minutes of research, you'd most likely find out about Ripple's Q4 report. And what you'll find in here is potentially pretty shocking to you. But again, Ripple got sued in 2020. How many partners in terms of, XRP/ODL markets did it have at that point? 3. How many do they have now? 40, all right? So just to kind of put it on a scale here for a second, people saying that Ripple's partnerships in this sense are the major driver for the XRP price, and Ripple is selling XRP only to then make partners have it, and then the partners announce that they're using it so the price goes up so they sell it more. First of all, from a certain perspective, that's a loop that every single cryptocurrency has parts of it, right? In the sense that you're doing something to hopefully increase the usage/adoption/price. And in a similar sense, Ripple pushing for the XRP ledger to be used by, pushing or paying partners. Is that a bad thing? Is that a strange thing? And if that results in the price going up, is that bad? Because in a similar sense, Ethereum, for example, let's pick another one, Algorand. They are giving out grants for people to build on there, or pick any chain. Most likely they're paying people to hop on the platform. Is that bad if in turn the price goes up then because there's more usage? Because ask yourself, why is Ethereum so high up there? Not because it's the absolute best in all tech. It's because they have the most on top of it. It has the most built. And for that reason, it's the easiest place to get into because people are most familiar with it. That comes, however, partially from the way in which it would all started with a security offering. But more importantly, a lot of it has to do with paying people in the process. It steps away a little bit from my point that I tried to make earlier, but the point here is, if you really think Ripple has all the effect on the XRP price, well, you'd be mistaken. Because otherwise, following this news, right, the price should have already been just at a crazy, ridiculous level because of all the partnerships that they've been getting in the meantime. So another argument that I see quite often is XRP is a centralized banker coin. First of all, saying XRP or the XP ledger is centralized, I can just easily disregard that because these people are not serious. They don't look, they just assume. So the only thing we can kind of, I guess, talk about is this banker coin aspect, but the simple answer to that is being a bank-related coin bad? Again, maybe from a decentralized perspective, being involved with the banks or so is bad. Because in a similar sense, I could agree with you that in the true Bitcoin vision, Bitcoin being bought by these major institutional funds is not necessarily what the people would want, or Bitcoin being, I guess, processed by banks is also not what true fans would want. And I can agree with that. I can understand that. There's a very big difference between the true decentralized self-sustaining system that we might want to get to. That's irreliant, I guess is the word in English. Is that a word? On anybody. Or on the opposite side, the more realistic side of things over the next couple of decades, because I do believe we could go into the standard anyway, of we have a current system, disrupt that with sort of these rails, right? If we're talking about a new train, that they already know. So their rails are completely upgraded, but they're still rails, so to speak. It's different than trying to go from rails to rocket, because it just takes a little bit more time, and especially if you can't have the connections, etc., to stay along with the true vision, talking about Bitcoin or talking about a non-current financial system disruptor, it's just a lot more difficult. And so the question comes, what exactly do you prefer? And I personally always say follow the money. And in this sense here, there's a lot of money in this completely decentralized away from anything ecosystem, and there will be. In the same sense, Monero is used a lot still because it's so private and because it sits alone with that vision. On the contrary, if we look at the banking system and how much money goes around in that, and we look at the problems that can be solved through the XP ledger, they're pretty huge problems, and it's a lot of money that could be encompassed in this ecosystem. I don't want to waste it, so to speak. I should get back to one of my core topics, though, which is the fact that this lawsuit, there's a couple of different results that we are expecting. So I'm going to be honest with you here and say we are not certain, nor can anybody be, that this is going to be finished by the end of March. That was an expectation that was put forward by multiple different lawyers that if the judge were to make a decision, it would most likely be before that date, because they basically have a pending cases list every half year, and she'd probably want to finish it by that time, as it's basically in the time frame for it, but she doesn't have to. And second of all, it could actually be because this case is so difficult. Not in the sense, because if we all look at it, it's like, well, it's pretty simple, but it's pretty like tone setting for the rest of the crypto space that she wants to go to trial. And that's something you should keep in the back of your head as well. That could take a lot longer. But ultimately, the way I see it, the result is going to be somewhat positive. I still think that even in the most negative of scenarios, and I saw this from John Deedon, one of the most important lawyers in all this a little bit earlier, that the SEC's allegings, so to speak, and what the judge could actually rule upon might be two completely different things, in a sense of potentially what the end result could be is if Ripple loses, they have to pay a fine for the whole 2013 to 2017 debacles, and then, well, from there on forward, basically they're fine. I think that's again, in my own little perception of things, which is not accurate because I'm not a legal advisor, but that's like one of the worst cases that I could think might happen. That Ripple still has to pay a fine because that's the system that we're playing in, but that XRP's current stance is good. I've also been thinking a lot about all these battles that, for example, Coinbase is now fighting and that all these other crypto companies are fighting. And it's just interesting to me how Ripple was ignored for so long. And we've talked before and said, hey, if you don't support Ripple, it's going to reflect on the entirety of the crypto market. And it's still a very important question today of where exactly will the crypto market stand the moment that this Ripple case is finished and it's actually a negative verdict. Because if you're thinking that they're not going to go after things like Cardano, they're not going to go quickly after XLM or almost any different crypto in the entire market cap, you're wrong. Then again, it's only in the US because the rest of the world is pretty progressive. It's just the US that's kind of doing this difficult job. It might leave you to wonder, and rightfully so, does it really matter what the SEC chooses? I'd say 50-50 from the perspective of, regardless of what the SEC chooses, there is going to be some sort of intervention from higher up, not too long from now. And I have some articles to back that up, but my personal thoughts are that, regardless of the situation that we're in, outcome, I think eventually there will be a higher player that steps in and says, hey, you know, Gary Gensler, whatever you've been doing here, whatever you've been accusing of, that don't make a lot of sense. And we're not with that system. I think partially this might be because they want to collect as much tax as possible, right, from other parts. And so the more you're banning this innovation, the more it's going abroad to Asia, for example, the more money that you're losing, the weaker the dollar gets, which is kind of ironical, but I think that's honestly the case. Because you got to remember here, Ripple as a company is still a U.S. company. So you really going against them is just hurting the U.S. Because they're just going to move abroad, and all that money, all that income, all those taxes are not going to go to you anymore. So why would you do that if the company from almost any other regulatory body in the U.S. is looked at like, oh, doing a completely good job, is fine. It's only the SEC and only some specific people at the SEC, because many others at the SEC have also described that Ripple's job here is fine. But the same thing can be applied to staking. The same thing can be applied to a lot of different things, regardless of what the rules are now. In due course, I think they'll take another look and it will be fixed. So it's just an intermediary thing. And from that perspective, I'm thinking, man, regardless of what happens to Ripple, I want to be on the right side of history, supporting it now that a lot of people are still questioning it. So I can always say that we were on the right side of literally what's right and what's wrong, and just not stay only on the sidelines seeing them destroy the crypto space. So that's why I always keep saying, try to do whatever you can to get this to attention. You know, the whole Gary Gensler facade against Ripple, but even them just against the crypto space. Just get it as much attention as possible, because what happens is they say, come and talk to us, but once you try to, they ignore you. But then again, like I described earlier, I think XRP, the hatred towards it, is showcasing that it's pretty undervalued for the progress that it's made over time. And that's again because the price does not accurately reflect like Ripple's achievements or anything, because the market is pretty damn huge. But I kind of hope that in due course, because this lawsuit finishes, that is going to get a lot of those not gotten gains back that a lot of other cryptos got in 2021, etc. And one of these core principles that I'd like to install upon your head is, I'm not a guy that doesn't invest and forget, because I look at my investments every single day. And on this channel, I try to teach you guys about new investments that I'm making. And I honestly believe anybody with a net worth of $10,000 right now can become a millionaire in the next 3 or so years. And in the next bull run, I'm flying 5 people over to Dubai here with me to teach them everything I know about crypto, everything I know about investing in like a week boot camp or so. But there is a core principle that I think people should understand, which is don't worry about it too much. Make sure you're only using money you're able to lose. But if that's the case, then don't worry. And if you don't feel comfortable, diversify better. Because I've never had a second of doubt or a second of worry, because I know my investments are solid and I've done the risk to reward analysis for myself. I understand, okay, there is a potential that Ripple does end up losing. How high is that? Not that high. If they do end up losing, the entire crypto market's going to go down, of which the only easy way is to hedge it with a short, a permanent short position basically, for in case it does come out with a negative result. And what is the probability of upside? Well, pretty high, because most scenarios, most outcomes are this positive one. And if they win, the entire crypto market will pump, but specifically XRP will get such a crazy margin that it could ignite the entire new bull run, and XLM could also get a pretty big rush because of all that. But like Panzer here says, a lot of people have different reasons for investing into this, right? The dollar and fiat are not on their way out. People who believe that are delusional. Again, people have different opinions on that, but that's why like XRP is utilitarian for fiat currency, not a replacement. That's why, or that's where XRP holds value, which is more of an idea of it's disruptive, but not disruptive enough to be very unlikely to win and make us money. Anyway, I just wanted to get you guys up to speed with some of the thoughts I've been having regarding all this. I think about this a lot, guys. I want you guys to understand that. I buy more XRP every single day, but I've decided to lower that amount to also buy myself some other cryptos, because XRP is the biggest coin in my portfolio and I practice what I preach. So I just buy the coins mostly that I talked about in my top 5 coins to go crazy in 2023. I primarily buy those. And I honestly just think you also never know which coins are going to pop off the most in a certain set of time, right? It could be that this XRP case takes another 6 months or so. Maybe a coin like Polygon has already made a 4x in that middle span, which is why diversification is always key. But that was it for today's video. Hopefully you all enjoyed it, and we'll do some more cool research tomorrow. This is just, again, another little thought process that I wanted to get inside your heads. And that's it for right now. See you guys later in another one.